We often remember the olden days fondly. For me, that is the story of my experience with MMOs, and that is the story of my experience with YouTube. Back in the early days of YouTube, there was so much more passion from creators. Back before people started calling themselves content creators and making the same canned carbon copy videos that others had already made, originality has died and been replaced by hyper-optimization in a chase for more clicks, views, and likes. Clickbait titles and thumbnails, and the use of negativity and controversy unnecessarily in order to farm views. There is nothing like negativity to get people talking about a video. Negativity is actually hardwired into our brains to be something we focus more on. There's a lot of research out there. I will link a video that explains it in depth that I recommend watching. In essence, evolution and the idea of survival of the fittest meant that humans had to focus more on negative situations and deal with them quickly, as those were often life-threatening situations. And whether consciously or unconsciously, the media picked up on this. It started before the internet and of course was carried over and magnified by the power and scale of the internet. There is nothing inherently wrong with negativity. It is something that is a normal human emotion and something that can be useful. I am not against using negativity in my videos. I am not in any way afraid to point out negative things that I see in a game I am talking about, but I refuse to do so just to farm views, and I will only be negative when I truly see an objective reason to do so. My channel is hyper-focused on objectivity, maybe to a fault. I want to use as much empirical evidence as possible to form my views, and then and only then will I point out issues I see, but never to farm views or stir up controversy for no reason. Objectivity is such a major part of my existence that I actually have another YouTube channel called Objectivum that is 100% about objective discussion on a multitude of subjects. That channel is unfortunately completely dead, as I got even less traction on that one than I did on this one. Turns out many people don't like to think objectively. People want to be told how to think instead of getting the information presented to them and then forming their own opinion based on the facts. And the algorithm seems to agree with that viewpoint. Also, I never want to get into the trap of over-optimization. Another passion for me alongside gaming is the stock market and trading. I have been involved with trading for over 20 years, but in the last 5 years or so, I have started getting more into algorithmic trading using PineScript and Python with various backtesting packages. And yes, another shameless plug, I have a YouTube channel for that as well called Speculate Freedom. That channel does okay, but I have been making videos on there for a very long time compared to this one, and have a fairly large Twitter following for my Speculate Freedom Twitter account. In terms of stock trading, people seem to like objectivity more. Why this relates to YouTube is because when developing a trading algorithm, over-optimization is a very bad thing. It is called curve fitting, and it results in a trading model that will most likely perform terribly on live data. I feel as though YouTube creators have become over-optimized as well. Some new prank video idea does well, and then 500 people copy it. Someone figures out a new YouTube thumbnail design that does well, and then 10,000 people try to copy it. Using certain keywords in a title do well, and then 50,000 people copy it. Yes, I know I sound like a cranky old man when I reminisce about the good old days of YouTube, but I will say, I'm not one of those that thinks the newest generation is terrible or that we are doomed. In fact, I believe the opposite. I think every single new generation has been better than the last one. If that wasn't the case, we would probably not progress as a society and instead devolve into a true dystopian reality similar to the movie Idiocracy. But we are still progressing as a society, albeit in the last few years, I think we probably have regressed in many ways, especially on social issues. But in science and technology, we still see incredible progress. But the old days of YouTube saw most people on here making videos simply because they like to talk deeply about subjects. They liked to teach people new things and had interests they wanted to share with others. Yes, the entertainment channels also existed, but even they were much more full of original ideas and not overly optimized. It is the same concept of MMOs becoming overly optimized. On that concept, I have a slightly different view. I tend to want to play an MMO knowing as much as I can going in. I'm a part of the locusts that consume all content in an MMO as fast as possible. As much as I can, at least, given my time constraints. That is part of why I like to optimize, because I am older and I don't have as much free time as I used to. So for MMOs, I don't mind optimizing, and I did make a video talking about that. But on YouTube, I don't like it as much, and I refuse to over-optimize my videos. So why did I make this video? Well, it is going to be my new channel trailer, because I don't have one that it truly explained what this channel is about. This channel tries to do things differently, whether the algo likes it or not. And yes, I will be a guides channel to some extent, though that is not all I will do. Ashes hopefully will make guide creation harder. Most MMOs make guide creation too easy. But on that note, I do think I had perhaps the best, most detailed guide to Ashes Alpha 1. Even if you did not play Alpha 1 and are considering Alpha 2, I recommend watching that video and reading that guide. It contains a lot of little details that you can't find on the official wiki. And of course, most of that is going to change in Alpha 2. But some of the core concepts will be the same, just expanded upon. For instance, few people know that Alpha 1 had a pretty extensive main story quest. It had quite a few raid bosses, and the gearing system was more complex than many realize. The gathering system was very basic, as was the refining system. But we did see the early stages of how the crafting system will work in a symbiotic relationship with drops from raid bosses. Scales from the world bosses were needed to craft the best gear, so just because crafting produces the best gear does not mean raiding becomes obsolete. It is a good trade-off between the two to keep both relevant. The wiki is not super clear on that, but if you watch my videos, you get that detail. Outside of guides, some content that I have that I think is somewhat rare is the very deep dives I do on certain subjects. The Riot MMO and ZeniMax MMO, Everything Known videos, and accompanying documents are both, in my opinion, the most extensive compilation of information that exists for those upcoming projects. My new series on building my perfect MMO starts with combat. I'm not sure you will find a more comprehensive study of MMO combat anywhere, and by the time that project is done, I'm not sure you will find a more extensive video series on the subject of what someone views as their ideal MMO. Lazy Peon did a single video on what his ideal MMO would be, but I am going into so much more detail with this series. I'm not trying to say I'm better in any way than Lazy Peon, because I am not. If I was, my videos would not get buried by the algorithm as often as they do. But I do intend to go very deep on MMO details like that. Whether the algo likes it or not is not that important to me. And yes, I have done a couple Ashes of Creation dev update videos, like probably over 100 channels do. I'm not sure I will do every single dev update, but the combat ones I will most likely do. And even then, I try to get into some details that others are not getting into. My pros and cons of Ashes of Creation combat video, I think, goes very in-depth on what I want to see. And the dev update I just did for the latest combat reveal gets into some very small details that I think many will not get into. Again, I am not trying to say I am better than anyone, just different. Different probably to a fault. But I don't want to compromise who I am as a person to shamelessly farm views. And the reality that many don't realize is that you have to grow a channel to a very high level to get a livable income from YouTube. Making a full-time income from YouTube is reserved for the top 0.1% of channels. Getting to 1,000 subs basically gets you money for a coffee once a month. It is not a reality for most channels to ever become big enough to make a decent wage from this. So why not do it your own way and not be super focused on the algorithm? That is my stand, and one I intend to stick to. One final reason I made this video besides a new channel trailer is I do intend to make a few videos highlighting some concerns for Ashes and the Riot MMO that I have. And it is not done in malice or to farm views, it is done in wanting to provide feedback and help improve both projects. If you watch this entire video, I've probably made that clear by now. I know this video was a bit all over the place, but hopefully my small loyal group of followers has a better understanding of what I'm going for with this. And with that, I will see you guys in the next video.